Welcome back to The Innovative Teacher. In the last episode, we built the foundation: what educational esports is, what it isn't, and what your role looks like inside that environment. Today, we're taking the next step. We're moving into curriculum integration and lesson design, because this is the point where many teachers realize something important. Esports isn't an extra. It's not an add-on. It's a delivery method for outcomes you're already teaching. So instead of asking, where does esports fit in the curriculum? A more powerful question is, which curriculum outcomes can esports help me deliver? That shift changes everything. Let's start with the big idea. Esports does not replace curriculum. It delivers curriculum through an engaging environment. The game is the platform. The learning is still yours. The outcomes are still yours. The standards are still yours. What changes is the context in which students practice and demonstrate skills. When teachers begin exploring this space, they often discover that esports fits naturally into areas they're already working in: digital technologies, health and well-being, personal development, communication, leadership, even media studies. But here's the key: the integration doesn't come from the game content itself. It comes from the transferable skills students are using while they play. If you're thinking, this doesn't relate to my subject, try shifting your focus away from the game and toward the skills. Communication under pressure, strategic thinking, collaborative problem solving, decision-making, reflection. Those skills exist in almost every learning area. And instead of creating something entirely new, consider this: where could esports become the environment through which you deliver a lesson you already teach? Now, once you begin integrating it, the next step is recognizing learning inside gameplay. Because learning in esports environments doesn't always look traditional. It's not always written. It's often spoken, demonstrated, negotiated, or adapted in real time. When you first observe a session, you'll probably notice gameplay first. That's normal. But with experience, your attention shifts. You begin noticing strategy discussions between teammates. You notice leadership moments. You hear peer coaching. You see problem-solving attempts unfolding live. You pick up on tone of communication: supportive, frustrated, calm, reactive. Those behaviors are evidence of learning. If it ever feels hard to see the learning, try this simple adjustment. Watch the students, not the screens. Listen to their conversations. Notice how they respond when something doesn't go to plan. That's where growth is happening. And if measuring progress feels unclear, focus on observable behaviors. Is communication improving? Are decisions becoming more deliberate? Is teamwork more consistent? These are accessible skills. Which brings us to structure. Because the difference between free play and an educational esports lesson is structure. A strong esports lesson follows the same flow as any effective lesson: purpose, activity, reflection, feedback. First, purpose. Students need to know what skill they're focusing on before gameplay begins, not after. Second, activity. They practice that skill inside the game environment. Third, reflection. They step back and discuss what worked, what didn't, and why. Fourth, feedback. You guide improvement and reinforce the learning goal. Without reflection, gameplay becomes entertainment. With reflection, gameplay becomes learning. If sessions ever feel chaotic, it's usually because the learning focus wasn't clearly defined at the start. And if students are overly focused on winning, it may be because success hasn't been defined in terms of skill development. When you redefine success as improved communication or better teamwork rather than victory, behavior often shifts dramatically. That leads naturally into designing learning intentions. In any lesson, clarity reduces behavior issues. When students know what they're practicing, engagement becomes more purposeful. Instead of asking, "Are we just playing?" they understand that today's focus might be communicating clearly under pressure, or making fast but thoughtful decisions, or supporting teammates constructively. Clear learning intentions change the energy in the room. Students begin acting with intention rather than impulse. They start recognizing that their words and reactions matter. And once learning intentions are clear, assessment becomes much easier. Assessment in esports is not about scores. It's about behaviors, thinking, teamwork, and decision-making. You can observe communication clarity. You can observe leadership attempts. You can see strategy planning, adaptability, emotional control, and collaboration. Interestingly, many teachers find that esports provides more visible evidence of thinking than traditional written tasks. Students often talk through their reasoning in real time. They explain decisions. They justify strategies. They respond immediately to feedback. You're hearing their thinking as it happens. If you're concerned about students who are less skilled players, remember this: you're not assessing mechanical ability. You're assessing communication, reflection, teamwork, and decision-making. A student doesn't have to be the strongest player to demonstrate strong leadership or thoughtful analysis. Now, if you're planning your first structured session, it helps to simplify your goal. Your first session is not about gameplay mastery. It's about establishing culture. Focus on expectations. Focus on communication norms. Model teamwork language. Practice reflection routines. Make it clear that this is a learning environment. Avoid putting pressure on competition or performance in that first session. When teachers prioritize culture first, behavior issues are significantly reduced later. Students understand the tone, the expectations, and the purpose from the beginning. If you feel pressure to run the perfect first session, let that go. Focus on structure. Focus on clarity. Focus on routines. That foundation matters more than performance. And if students immediately rush into a competitive mindset, slow the pace. And pause. Reinforce the learning goal. Remind them what success looks like in this environment. As we bring this together, here's the central message. Effective esports lessons rely on teaching skill, not gaming expertise. You don't need advanced technical knowledge. You need clear goals. Structured reflection. Strong facilitation. Those are skills you already use every day. One important idea we haven't explored yet, and one that often changes how teachers approach this entirely, is how flexible esports can be when it comes to differentiating learning and supporting a wide range of students at once. In a traditional lesson, differentiation can sometimes feel like preparing multiple activities for different ability levels, but inside a structured esports environment, differentiation can happen naturally through roles, responsibilities, and ways students participate. One student might take on a strategic planning role, another might focus on communication leadership, another might analyze gameplay decisions, and another might reflect on team dynamics. All of them are working toward the same learning intention, but they're demonstrating it in different ways and at different levels of complexity. This makes it possible to support diverse learners without needing entirely separate lesson plans. It also opens opportunities for student voice and agency, because students can take ownership of how they contribute to the team's learning goals. Some may excel verbally, others analytically, others socially, and structured esports environments allow those strengths to surface visibly. Over time, this can increase confidence for students who don't always thrive in traditional academic tasks, because they begin to see themselves as capable contributors to a learning process. Another powerful aspect is the amount of real-time evidence you can gather as a teacher. Instead of waiting for a finished worksheet or assessment submission, you can observe thinking as it happens, listen to reasoning as it unfolds, and respond immediately with feedback. That immediacy allows you to scaffold learning in the moment, adjusting questions, prompting reflection, or guiding collaboration while the experience is still active. When you start viewing esports not just as an activity but as a responsive learning environment, you realize it can support formative assessment, differentiation, student engagement, and skill development all at once. That's when it becomes more than just an engaging tool. It becomes a highly adaptable teaching space that responds to learners in real time, which is something many educators spend years trying to achieve through traditional methods alone. If you understand that esports can deliver curriculum outcomes, that learning can be observed during gameplay, that structure determines whether sessions succeed, that reflection transforms play into learning, and that assessment focuses on skills rather than scores, then you're ready to move forward with real confidence. Teachers who thrive in this space aren't the ones who know games the best. They're the ones who understand learning the best. And that already puts you in a strong position. In our next episode, we'll take the next step and explore classroom management and student well-being in esports environments. looking at how to create positive learning cultures, set clear expectations, and support students so sessions stay focused, balanced, and safe. Until then, keep designing with intention, keep aligning with outcomes, and keep thinking like an innovative teacher. Thanks for listening.